Students, welcome once again to the Oval Academy of Education. In today's video, we are going to discuss here with ICSE Class 8 Biology Lesson First, exercise of Lesson First. Book is your Session ICSE Biology for Class 8 written by Professor Veerwala Rastogi. Right, let us move straight forward onto the exercise. So first question in your book is test yourself, fill in the blanks with suitable words, right? So fill in the blanks. During osmosis, movement of water occurs from a dash solution to a dash solution. So students, during osmosis occurs movement of water occurs from a, here it would be dilute, sorry, I have to write it in dilute solution to a concentrated solution. Right, what is osmosis? Osmosis is, as you know, I have explained in earlier video of this chapter, the movement of solvent molecules or water from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable, that is selective membrane, that is called, the process is called osmosis. So dash vessels have thick walls and narrow lumen. Which vessels, xylem or phloem? Here it would come xylem. Right? Transport of mineral occurs by a process of active transport. Transport of mineral occurs by the process of active transport. Right, students? Water evaporates from the dash plants. Water evaporates from the dash of plants. So here this is wrong. Here it would come aerial parts. Aerial parts of the plants. Right? Upward movement of water in the stem takes place through xylem. Now one word substitution. Process of absorption of minerals by root hairs is called active transport. Here it would come active transport. The pull that helps is in the conduction of water from root to leaves of the plant, leaves of the tall trees is called conduction of water to the top of the plant is called transpiration pull. Right? Movement of molecules across semi-permeable membrane against concentration gradient. I have told you earlier about this. What would it, whenever there occurs movement against concentration gradient, then it is always active transport. Right, we will write here active transport. Now we will move on to the next page. Loss of water from the leaf surface by evaporation. As you know, it is transpiration. right? Upward movement of water in plants, ascent of sap. Upward movement of water is called ascent of sap. Movement of food prepared by leaves to different parts of the plants, it is called translocation. Location of the food, right? So students, let us move on to the next question, that is here. Give function of the following root hairs. So I have written these functions here. Here is question C. Its first part is functions of root hairs. What are the functions of root hairs? First is they help in absorption of water and dissolved minerals, right? Second, they provide a large surface area for absorption of water, because larger the surface area, greater is the absorption of water. So the more area they will get, the more area will get more absorption of water, right? Now functions of xylem vessels. Functions of xylem vessels are written here. As you know, the xylem vessels form continuous channels linked to one another, like this, like this, like this, right? Channels from root through stem and branches to the tips of the leaves, and they go to the tips of the leaves wherein water rises. Water rises through these channels against the force of gravity, and thus helps smooth conduction of water in plants. So this is the main function of xylem vessels, that is transport of water, right? Now next question is function of phosphorus in plants. This question is here. So phosphorus is the constituent of nucleic acid and nucleoproteins in plants, right? So phosphorus is macronutrient or micronutrient. So phosphorus is a macronutrient, right students? So it is an essential element of nucleic acid and nucleoproteins in the plants, which are transferred in the animals when they eat these plants, right? So question number D. Here is the question number D, and this is the part first. Encircle the odd one out, give reasons for your choice. This is part first. So we have to pick out the odd one. Root hair, root, xylem and phloem. So here phloem is the odd one because it helps in the transportation of food, whereas all the other three, that is root hair, root and xylem, they helps in absorption and movement of water. Phloem helps in the transportation of food. This is the main difference between amongst these four. Now part second is osmosis, translocation, wilting and transpiration. It is given here. So here wilting is the odd one because all other three are the main life processes, whereas wilting is a sub process of one of the main process, that is transpiration, right? So osmosis, translocation and transpiration are the three main life processes of the life of plant, whereas wilting is a sub process of one of the main processes, that is a part of transpiration. Now part third is given here. So nitrogen, phosphorus, copper and calcium. And so here copper is the odd one because it is a micro element. All the other three are the macro elements. Alright, now we will move on to the next question, that is question number E. Differentiate between diffusion and osmosis. It is explained here. Question E, part 1. Diffusion, as you know, it is the movement of water of molecules from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration without the using any energy, right? And osmosis is the movement of solvent molecules. For example, water is a solvent, universal solvent, from a region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Here this is the main difference. Here semi-permeable membrane is used, it is without semi-permeable membrane. Now we move on to the next page. So next is student, here is diffusion and osmosis we have seen on the earlier page. Now the next one is diffusion and active transport. So diffusion, as I have explained earlier, it is the movement of molecules from region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration, which is according to the concentration gradient, right? Whereas active transport is the movement of molecules and ions from the region of lower concentration to the in the soil to the region of higher concentration. This is from higher to lower and this is from lower to higher, right? It is with the it is according to the concentration gradient, but it is against the concentration gradient. And second main difference is it happens without using energy, it happens with use of energy against the concentration. So this movement against concentration gradient requires use of energy, which is used in the active transport and not used in the diffusion, right? Next one is part 3, difference between xylem and phloem. It is given here. Xylem conducts water and minerals absorbed by root to the other parts of the plant. Phloem, it conducts water and minerals, whereas phloem transports organic food manufactured by leaves to all other parts of the plant. So xylem is composed of 4 types of vessels: xylem vessel, tracheids, xylem fibers and xylem parenchyma, whereas phloem is composed of phloem vessels, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. So here main difference is, here are tracheids, tracheids, where here are tracheids, here are companion cells, right? This is the main difference of their constituents or their parts. Question 4 of part E is difference between the micronutrients and macronutrients. So micro they are required in a very small quantities of water, as their name denotes, micro, and macro they are required in larger quantities for growth of plants. So here examples are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. Macros example are iron, manganese, copper, boron, zinc, molybdenum, chlorine and nickel, etc. Right, students? Now we will move on to the next page. So next page is question number F, part first. How does transport of material takes place in unicellular plants? So it takes place by diffusion. So I have solved it here. Now question 2 of part F is given here. So describe adaptation in root hairs to for absorption of water. We have to discuss the adaptation. Which are the adaptation in the root hairs to made for absorption of water. So this is the diagram I have shown here. So adaptation in root hairs for absorption of water, number 1. So first adaptation would be large number of root hairs. Here large number of roots are there. These are large number of root hairs. So large number of root hairs provides larger surface area for absorption of, यहाँ पे लिखना है आपने water, absorption के बाद लिखना है absorption of water, right? First adaptation. Next one is number 2. Semi-permeable membrane of root hair permits water and mineral molecules. Selective mineral molecules are entered through semi-permeable membranes to enter into the cell sap and does not allow them to come out. So it will not allow them to come out, right? This is cell membrane which is semi-permeable, right? Now cell sap, as I have shown here, concentrated cell sap is, this is cell sap, this, right? So cell sap in root hairs has higher concentration of salt than the surrounding soil water, right? And large vacuoles can also absorb much water. So the most important and last one is root hairs provide a large surface area for absorption of water, because larger the surface area, greater is the absorption of water. So as we know, these are scattered in a big area. So these root hairs, so they provide a larger surface area, right? So which is helpful for more and more absorption of water, right? Next we are going to discuss up to second. We have seen in the last page. Now we are moving to the third. Discuss an experiment to demonstrate that water is absorbed by root hairs. So this is, students, this experiment in given on page 10 of your book, activity 1, already explained in video 1. So how it can be demonstrated that ascent of sap takes place through xylem vessel. So this is also explained in on page 13, activity number 4 of your book, right? So now we will move on to the next. Define the term ascent of sap. It is explained here. The upward movement of water and minerals through the stem. Upward movement of water and minerals through the stem of the plants up to leaves is called ascent of sap. This is the definition of ascent of sap, right? Next we will move on to the next page. Here is root pressure. Explain root pressure and its role. Root pressure, as we have discussed earlier, plant roots build up a pressure that pushes water from roots to the leaves. So this pressure is developed by the plant roots to circulate water up to the leaves that pushes water upward in the xylem vessels. This push is called root pressure, right? What is its role? First role is it provides initial push to the water molecules in the xylem so that water is distributed from low bottom to the top, right? Second, it holds the water column up. It always remains these channel filled up with water, so that for adequate supply of water in the plants, right? So next is summarize events in a sequence during transport of water from soil to leaves in a graphic form. So this figure 1.3 on page 9 of your book is the graphical representation, right? You can do it from there. So next is discuss various conditions that alter rate of transpiration. So students, these are number one conditions that alter rate of transpiration are: first is it increases with the temperature of air. When the temperature rises, transpiration would also rise, right? So how to decrease this? Transpiration decreases with increase in humidity. When humidity in the air increases, transpiration will definitely decrease. So which produces cooling effect. So transpiration increases with the speed of wind. When cool wind blows, it would increase the transpiration. Transpiration is more in daytime than in the night time. Transpiration is more in the daytime than in the night time, because during the daytime stomata are remained open through most of the times, and closed during night. So there is more transpiration in the daytime than in the night time. So it happens due to opening and closing of the stomata, transpiration, right? Next, we have discussed up to this question part 8. Now we will move on to the next question. State whether the following statements are true or false. If false, rewrite the correct statements. So osmosis and diffusion are same phenomenon? No, they are not same, they are different, because the one happens with the help of semi permeable membrane, that is diffuser, right? Plants lose water by process called translocation. No, translocation is the transport of food. So what is that process? That is, instead of translocation, we will write transpiration, right? So this statement is also false. So root hairs are multicellular structures. So root hairs are multicellular structures. So root hairs are unicellular structures. This statement is also multicellular, they are unicellular. Xylem and phloem are vascular tissues. This is true. Water transport in unicellular plants takes place by diffusion. So this is false. It is happens by osmosis, right? So next question is match the columns. Column A with column. Cell sap. So cell sap is through vacuoles. So it is vacuoles. Although number are I have already written here, so you can take this. Transpiration is I have earlier told, this is through stomata, right? Transpiration is through stomata. Translocation. So translocation, I have already told you, it is the movement of food, right? Sieve tubes. Where sieve tubes are related to what? Sieve tubes are related with the phloem. And root pressure is ascent of cell, right? Next, so give reasons for the following. Next question is I in your book. Give reasons for the following. Transpiration help in ascent of sap. Because you have to give a reason, so we will start it with because transpiration builds a suction force that is called transpiration pull in the xylem vessels, and this transpiration pulls of water up to the top of a tree from the root and thus helps in ascent of sap, right? So this is the reason why the transpiration helps in ascent of sap, right? This is question to answer to this question first. So next is water column is maintained inside xylem vessel. So what is the reason for? Because xylem vessels are open at both the ends, so and they are joined end to end, thus they form continuous channel like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like continuous channels. So water rises through these channels and in the stem and reaches to the tips of the leaves. So water rises water in these vessels rises against the force of gravity and hence water column is maintained here, right students? So next is what? Intensity of light increases transpiration rate, because I have told you earlier, because light causes stomata to open and increases the transpirations, therefore but the stomata remain open during the day and closed during night, hence there is more transpiration during the day, that is in the light, than at the night. This is the reason. And last one is absorption of water from soil by root occurs by osmosis, because the cell membrane of root hairs act as a semi-permeable membrane, as I have told you earlier, through which water molecules from soil enter. Here it is enter, enter the cells. This is the reason absorption of water from soil by root hair occurs by osmosis. Right? Root hair occurs by osmosis and not by diffusion. Right? Next is what? Multiple choice questions. Resins swell up when they are put in rainwater, they swell up due to osmosis, right? I have marked here at C. Root hairs are suited for absorbing water from the soil because root hairs provide a larger surface area, as we have discussed earlier, for absorption. The vascular tissue in leaves is located both in midrib and its branches. Pressure developed in the root due to continuous inflow of water is called, I have told you earlier, root pressure. This is not a macronutrient. These all are micro, but this is not a macronutrient. So iron is not a macronutrient, it is a micronutrient. Minerals from soil are absorbed by root hairs by the mechanism of active transport, for mineral active transport, right? Next page. Now we will move on to diagram based question. An experimental setup is shown in the figure, was placed in sunlight for 1.5 hours. Study the diagram, study it and answer the questions that follow. So what phenomenon? So this is a plant covered with a polythene bag. right, and put up in the sunlight, right. So what phenomenon does this experiment demonstrate? So here droplets of water we are seeing, it will reflects the phenomenon of transpiration in plants. Why was the plant covered with a transparent polythene bag? To protect the plant from humidity and wind, and to see water droplets. So due to humidity and wind, we could not see the process of transpiration well, so it was covered with the polythene bag, transparent polythene bag, so that we can see water droplets also. What will you find if the setup is placed inside a room? If the setup is placed inside a room, the drops inside of the polythene cover may not appear because the transpiration is less when away from the light. When placed in dark, transpiration is less, as I have explained earlier. Now next diagram is in the experimental setup as shown in the figure. The water levels in the test tube A fell down but not in test tube B. Here this is plant and these are roots, so the roots sucks the water, so the water will go down, and but in the tube B, because there is no plant to absorb water in test tube B, hence no loss of water. This is the your answer. This experiment is third. In the given experimental setup, a die is placed at the bottom of the beaker filled with water. After some time, the entire water in the beaker became colored. So we place some dye here. It will spread through the all the water, and water will become colorful. So this process, as you already know, is the diffusion. What is definition of diffusion? It is the movement of molecules from higher concentration to the region of lower concentration without using any energy. So due to diffusion, they are spread everywhere. In the above figure, two kinds of molecules are shown, larger and smaller. Which molecules are of the solute and which are of the solvent? Larger solute dye molecules are solute and smaller water molecules are solvent. If all the bigger molecules in A are enclosed in a permeable membrane, what will be the nature of the movement of the molecules? So it would become a selective movement of molecules, that is water molecules would be more and dye would be less, right? So next, why do we feel cool on standing under a tree? Due to transpiration, because transpiration produces cooling effect. Why do plants not grow well in a barren land? Barren land is barren, nobody can grow anything there. So due to positive, water is always positive there, positive or less water, water is less, positive means less water, and deficiencies of minerals. So there would be no micro and macronutrients, so plant don't grow well in the barren land. So students, this was your exercise of your chapter first, as students have demanded for the same and frequently requested me for to provide the same. So I have done all this, explained you the whole chapter, whole questions in this exercise. So thanks for watching the video. If you have understood it well, then please make more and more likes and subscriptions, shares to our channel. If you face any difficulty in this, you can ask me comment section of our channel, right? So it's time to say goodbye now. We will meet again in the next video with some new topic. Thank you. Goodbye.